Hello and welcome. On behalf of this oral history project, I Am IUN, I, Warren Kovacek, will be interviewing
Nicholas Casas.
Do I have permission to record and share this interview?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
sounds good. Where did you grow up and what are some of your favorite memories from your hometown?
Sure. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the
Okay.
city. I am originally from the Gage Park neighborhood, which is really close to the Midway Airport. I went to a lot of the Catholic grammar schools that were in the area and everything. So yeah, so I was born in the city, raised in the city. Uh, I was there for most of my life until about a year ago when my wife and I, Colette Casas, moved. She and I moved to Hammond.
Okay.
So we've only been in Hammond for about a year and a month already, and so and it's just been really great. So yeah, I grew up just being a city kid. So being in Northwest Indiana is a little bit a culture shock, but not really. I feel it culturally more associated with the Chicago suburbs.
Okay.
So just kind of just moving from the city to the suburbs is a little bit different. But we're settling in pretty well.
Okay, sounds good. What brought you to Northwest Indiana after all that time in Chicago?
Yeah. So my first real experience of Northwest Indiana was my student teaching when I was an undergraduate
Okay.
in college. So I in my undergraduate years, I majored in music education, and I went to St. Xavier University in Chicago, and I did music education there. And what I had to do is part of my graduation is I had to student teach because my certificate was for kindergarten to 12th grade. So, and that made me eligible to teach music. And so I had to do while all the teachers, the student teachers, had to just do one school, I had to do two schools. So I had to do a K through 8 school, and I also had to do a high school. And so the high school portion, I was really fortunate to do my student teaching in Lake Central High
Okay.
School in St. John, and which was just an amazing experience because their music program at the time was literally like one of the top, I would say about the top 30 music schools in the
Oh,
country
wow.
was Lake Central High School, and so their music program was just extraordinary. And an alum of my of St. Xavier University um, worked there, and so he was able to get me in to be a student teacher. So I drove all the way from my experience. Then is I drove all the way from Chicago to St. John 5 days a week from the month of May all the way to mid October of what year was that? That was of 2010,
Okay.
and that was like when I grew up because I learned a lot about waking up every day at 4:45 in the morning.
Hmm.
And the teacher at the time, his name was Christopher Harmon, an amazing music teacher. He wanted me there at 6:30 in the morning. First period was at 7:15 in the morning, so I had to leave my house about 5:30, and
Wow.
so it was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot, and but I learned like so much, not necessarily about the music side, but a lot about leadership
Okay.
and about hoarding like 300-400 students, about 200 students.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of experience, and that was my very first time of experiencing Northwest Indiana. I didn't know much about it. I had some classmates who have family in Cherville and Maryville, but I didn't really know much about it. And so when I was over there, I just realized that, hey, everyone here is just really nice and culturally more related to the Illinois side than the rest of
Okay.
state. So I learned a ton about that. So that was my really first experience. And then after that was over, I went to library school, and I landed my job here right now at
Okay.
IU Northwest, which I've been here for 7 years.
7 years.
I
Okay.
started in August of 2017, and so yeah, so I've been here. So and once I applied and I knew what IU Northwest, I
Hmm.
knew the area already, I knew the region already,
Okay.
so it was something that was like a no-brainer to apply, and I was
Okay.
really lucky to land this
Awesome.
gig.
Yeah, sounds good. How did your childhood help shape you into the person you are today?
Well, um, I guess you could say with my childhood is that it really like toughened me up a lot
Okay.
because I grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood. Like I said earlier, I'm a proud South Sider, and I grew up in the Gage Park neighborhood, and it was and it still is a really hard neighborhood. It was a really tough neighborhood to grow up in. Um, I it was I didn't get really a chance to go outside much because of how the
Wow.
crime was.
Yeah.
So, but I still had friends, and we would still go to the park and everything like
Hmm.
that, and or go with a really close friend of mine at the time, play video games inside at his house. But it was a tough growing up. I distinctly remember when I went to grammar school at St. Gall Elementary School. And in second grade, I distinctly remember in the library, we had a duck under the tables because there was shooting in one of the alleys that was next door to the school. There was a
No.
big gang fight that broke out. And so they were
Wow.
shooting at each other. This was happened about, I want to say this happened in the mid morning. And so we all had a duck underneath the tables, and it was a pretty scary. And that was at
Yeah.
about second, third grade, I believe. So that was really rough,
Wow.
um, but nothing really like I guess not a lot really phases me kind of growing up in that,
Okay.
not a lot of like areas like really like I'm not really scared to go out or anything like that.
Hmm.
So I guess it kind of um, toughened me up in that aspect. So I kind of took that with me. Um, and I guess that's kind of like how it shaped me. It was also a matter of just it kind of gave me a grit where it was like I was trying to um, get out of the neighborhood too. I wanted to
Okay.
get out, so I fought really hard to get out of not wanting to stay in that neighborhood very
Yeah.
long, and
Yeah.
so just try my best to get out, get get a good job, and make some money, and just get out of that neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. I got you. What was your early education like? I know you were already kind of alluding to it a little bit. Were there any particular teachers or moments that have had a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, so in terms of so I really did like school a lot. I liked school a lot from I was about kindergarten to about probably about like fourth grade. I
Okay.
really did. Afterward, it was okay, but like I didn't particularly. I always found school to be a little easy for me
Okay.
from kindergarten to fourth, and I was lucky for that. It didn't really until I was a little bit older is when I
Yeah.
actually had to start like working hard. But
Hmm.
I was really fortunate enough to go to a Catholic school where we had like a really nice core of teachers who've had just a wealth of teaching experience,
Okay.
and so I just like learned a lot from these really great teachers. Um, I also my mom and dad put me into piano school, which was maybe about a couple blocks away, and I had this piano teacher. Her name was Elaine Sabinski, and she passed away about how long has it been? I want to say about 6 7 years ago, I believe, and she had like a profound influence on me. She was just like really wise, and I had her as a piano teacher from when I was started at second grade when I was 8 years old, and I went all the way until I was a senior in high school till I was about 17 years old,
Oh wow.
and so I had her for a really long time. And she didn't just teach me about piano, but she also taught me a lot about music history. She also taught me about like life and we talked about like philosophy and
Hmm.
existentialism and all of this like really crazy stuff that it was just absolutely amazing that she just taught me about like wisdom
Yeah.
and making choices and decisions. So that was really great. She taught me she did teach me piano, but she really gave me a foundation of like other musical instruments that I learned later in life. So what I learned foundation with piano, I was able to teach myself guitar and bass, and she gave me an early foundation with drums, and that's how I became a music major like later in life, and I went to
Okay.
college. I also learned pipe organ under her too, and that allowed me to play the church pipe organ in my high school
Okay.
when we did masses and church services. So that which was really cool to do in high school. So my music teacher had like a really profound influence on me, and she was really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like music was a major part of your early life. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Like
Yeah,
how you
yeah.
got into that? Or I guess you said that your parents put you in the piano
Yeah.
school, but
Uh-huh. So like yeah, so I would say that yeah, it had like a huge influence. Like music is still like a huge part of my life.
okay.
I still play. Um it's just that with in terms with like music and everything like that, I when I was like I just learned piano reluctantly. I didn't really want to learn it, but I learned it. I learned when I learned piano. And when I was younger, when I was about 10, 11 years old, I was like a huge like Beatles fanatic
Okay.
as a little kid. And one of in the Beatles, there's Paul McCartney, and he was like a huge like idol to me when I was a kid.
Okay.
And he um there was this music video that he was in that I watched when I was a kid, because I would watch a lot of music videos as a little kid for some crazy reason. It was like on MTV or VH1, and it was on cable. This was before YouTube, and I would just like watch music videos all the time. And then I forgot the name of the song that was for the music video. And but in the music video, they edited it where he like played all of the instruments in the music video. He was on drums, he was on guitar,
Okay.
he was on bass, he was on piano, he sang, he was like on everything. And I saw that and I was like blown away, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to play like
Yeah.
everything. And so that like completely inspired me. So I learned guitar, I learned bass, I learned drums that I still know how to play to this day. And so yeah, and so that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I would guess my in terms of music, my highlight, I guess, of my music career was when I was in college, and my band teacher at the time in college, um, she had a friend that was putting together a large symphonic concert band slash symphony orchestra that was going to play a one-time concert in New York at the Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center, and so they needed another player. And so he asked her, my band director, do you know anyone? And so she asked me if I wanted to go. So I flew to New York for about 4 days, and I played a concert at Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center,
Wow.
which was just absolutely amazing. It was like in Lincoln Center, and so there was like a huge crowd, and it was just absolutely beautiful, incredible venue. That was a really crazy experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but that was the high point, I guess, of my music career from there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Um, was there ever a challenge in your education experience that was difficult for you to overcome?
So I know I mentioned like earlier that like school came easy to me when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but it didn't when I was a lot older, when I really had to work at it. So I guess the biggest challenge that I had to do was not necessarily on the student side, but it was on the teacher side. And like I mentioned earlier, like in 2010, when I did my student teaching, like I mentioned, I grew up like really quick.
Mm.
I was kind of a very immature person when I was like in my late teens, early 20s.
Uh,
And then as soon as when I turned 22 and I did my student teaching, is when I feel like I became an adult, because
okay.
I was like, now instead of someone being responsible for me, I was responsible for like a bunch of like minors, a bunch of
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And so one of the hardest experience I ever did was and I still think of it to this day, is student teaching. Was just such a huge whirlwind of everything, because I only taught professionally for 1 year, and that's when I left teaching and I became a librarian. So
Okay.
I did have like a full year of academic experience, a full academic year, but with student teaching it was like and I did middle school band directing for my very first teaching gig, and it wasn't that hard.
Okay.
But it was when I was like being part of a staff at the high school level, that was really difficult for me.
Okay.
And then when I did the K-8 side, I did middle school band and general music classes, and I taught that for what was it? It was for first grade all the way up to seventh grade. And the hardest classes that I had to teach was 6th grade and 7th grade, because
Okay.
middle school students are a huge challenge.
Okay.
It's so difficult to teach those type of students. So just learning about how to deal with that was hard. I did my student teaching in Midlothian, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, not too far away from here, actually.
Okay.
And when I did that, I Midlothian is a very blue collar town. It's seen better days, and so I had a lot of students who came from like very unprivileged backgrounds, and I had students who've told me that like I've had my parents were ex gangbangers or who are still gangbangers,
Hmm.
and so these were students who like needed a lot of help, and these were students who were um, really like not only like where they just had a difficult home life, but I mean you're also dealing with like middle school life too. You're dealing with the start of being a teenager,
Hmm.
and so that was really difficult for me to like get around, like actually doing like disciplining and actually like you know having about 30 students who are 13 years old try to be quiet,
Hmm.
and but also at the same time making sure they learn and making sure I do my teaching techniques and everything. So that was that I did particularly struggled and just worked so hard when I was student teaching. So
Okay.
that was really the hardest time
Yeah.
that I've ever had. And it wasn't I wasn't in a classroom. I wasn't dealing with it, not like on the student side out,
Right.
and I didn't have a textbook in front of me telling me what to do. All I had was my cooperating teacher whose class it was, and it was just me being thrown in the fire and just me had to figure out to think on my feet. So
Okay.
that was really hard.
Okay. What caused you to make the switch to the librarian?
Yeah, so I just wanted to do something quieter. No, well, actually, like my dream job when I found out about music librarianship when I was about a junior in college. And so at that point, I found out what a music librarian was. And a music librarian, they work in a music library. You can work at a radio station or an orchestra or a university. And, you're in charge of like all the manuscripts and the music and the books and sound recordings
Okay.
and everything like that. And that sounded really cool. And I fell in love with music history when I was a junior in college. And so I'm like, oh, this is really cool. It's music history, and it's also dealing with music materials. And I'm like, this sounds really neat.
Yeah.
And so I just thought this is a really great idea. I'm going to go to library school for it. Well, I didn't know that music librarianship is really difficult to break into,
Okay.
and there's not a lot of jobs for it. Um, and it wasn't until like talking to other people that it wasn't really like talking to music librarians I realized maybe this is not something I wanted to do, and I
Hmm.
thought I wanted to do it. So but by the time I was a junior in college, I was already all done with my music education credits,
Okay.
and so I couldn't just quit music teaching
Yeah.
right there and
Yeah.
then. I was just like, well, let me just finish my degree. I'll have music teaching to back up just in case if I can't get a job,
Hmm.
I can always teach music. And so I went into library school. I got my master's degree just so I can be a music librarian.
Okay.
And so that didn't really pan out. I don't want to be a music librarian right now, but I still love music. I still love like music history. I
Yeah.
love musicology. And so one day I would love to go back to school for music history and something.
Okay.
So whether it be another master's degree or a PhD, and I would love to like teach it like part time. I did when I was student teaching in Lake Central High School in St. John. Um, Chris Harmon, the cooperating teacher, he's like this, huge music teacher around the country. Everyone knows him in the music education world.
Hmm.
He told me, he's like, you have like a talent for teaching music history.
Really?
So I was like, oh my God, this is really, I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
So, and I still want to do that. So, but maybe soon. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. How has your family or cultural heritage influenced your life? Are there any stories or traditions that are meaningful to you?
Yeah. So I'm a proud Mexican American. My grandparents on my father's side are from Mexico, And then my grandfather on my mother's side is from Mexico, but my grandmother on my mother's side was born and raised in Chicago.
Okay.
So I'm a second generation Mexican American here. My parents are first generation. So my generation, when you're second generation, you're a little bit more Americanized.
Okay.
And so I've kind of lost a little bit of heritage, but um, there are things that you kind of link up with your heritage in different ways. And that could be something in terms of like food or the music that you hear a lot at weddings, if
Mhm.
like family gets married, distant family gets married. And so there are things that like are that you kind of get attached to with that. Um, and so I would say who had like an amazing story came to this country was my grandfather, which was my mother's father. He was he was born in Irapuato, Guanajuato, which is a very small, it used to be a small town, but now it's a medium sized city, and they are known for strawberries. Irapuato is known for strawberries. If
Okay.
you ever see like a carton of strawberries and it says from Mexico, most likely it's coming from Irapuato.
Okay.
They deliver strawberries. They grow strawberries for all over the world, and so it's like a big thing is like strawberries for that
Okay.
town. And so my grandfather, he came up. His whole story for coming up here is just really interesting. And my mother told me about this story, and I couldn't believe it. So when my grandfather was a teenager, um, he would go around um, different bars, and he would play at a mariachi trio. And so he played in different bars and everything like that from when he was about 13, 14 years old all the way up until he was older. And so that's kind of, I guess, where the musician comes from in me too. Also, my father's side is the family of musicians too, but with my grandfather, um, he came. What ended up happening is that brother, um, his brother was American. His brother was born in McAllen, Texas, which is a border town.
Okay.
What ended up happening is that he got news that his brother died in McAllen, Texas. And what happened is that my grandfather went to McAllen, and I don't know how he went over. I don't know if he came over like legally or anything like that, but he went to McAllen, Texas, and he actually assumed his brother's identity. He took his name,
Wow.
his social security card, all of his papers, everything, and he just assumed his brother's life.
Wow.
And yeah, which is just amazing. And so once he assumed his brother's identity, he just took his papers and social security card and just got jobs and just changed his name.
Yeah.
His name was originally Alfredo,
Okay.
and then um, he took his brother's name, which was Gilberto.
Okay.
And so Gilberto Cantu is my grandfather. And then I didn't realize, wow, like Alfredo is actually his real name.
Wow.
His brother's birthday was Christmas. My grandfather's actual birthday's in January. So we always assumed Christmas was his real birthday, but it was actually his brother's birthday. So he assumed his identity.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is a crazy story.
Yeah. And then after with everything, he assumed everything in McAllen. He decided to go north, like a lot of people did for jobs. So he went to Chicago and he became a carpenter. He became a
Okay.
union carpenter, and he built a bunch of buildings in downtown Chicago.
Oh,
And he actually
nice.
helped build the Sears Tower. He actually did a lot of the carpentry work on the Sears Tower. And
Wow.
he had stories that he didn't want to talk about. He saw people like fall to his death,
Oh, geez.
and he saw people get hurt. Even in the 70s when they built the Sears Tower, like OSHA wasn't that strong, so
Hmm.
he saw a lot of unsafe working conditions with the Sears Tower. So he had a lot of stories with that. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. What an amazing life.
Yeah, yeah. And then my uncle, who is my father's brother, he was in talking about with music and everything like that. He was a musician. Well, he is a musician now. He's also a librarian. My uncle,
Wow.
his name is Jose Casas, and he plays guitar from the old hardcore punk band Crudos. And Crudos is a really big. If you ask like anyone who's really into hardcore punk, they know who Crudos is, and it's one of the very first hardcore punk rock bands in the early 90s that sang songs only in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
And they were based out of the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago, and they always sang about gentrification and the working class and everything. They were like a socialist punk rock band.
Okay.
And so my uncle was a founding member of that band.
And they
So
still play today?
they broke up, and they had a reunion about 10 years ago, but
Okay.
they they're not around much anymore. The lead singer, Martin, I can't pronounce his last name. He's Argentinian American, but he is currently a pretty famous artist, and he's based in California.
Wow.
But not only were they one of the first like Latin American punk bands in that sang in all Spanish, but also one of the earliest queer ones too.
Okay.
One of the earliest queer bands, and so he that's what they were known for. It's just a lot of history with them.
Okay. Nice. Is there any particular family members that have had the biggest impact on your life?
I would have to say my mom and my dad. Like my mom, especially. My mom took after my grandfather and became a carpenter.
Okay.
My mother was a union carpenter for 20 years,
Wow.
which is really unheard of because
Yeah.
it's usually like the trades, especially with carpentry, is usually a male-dominated field. And so she got us, all of us, like herself, my dad, like all of us kids, out of poverty because of the union. And so with that's why I absolutely love the union. I believe in unions 100% because my mother was a union carpenter. My father was a Teamsters, and they helped put food on the table because of union pay and union benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother would just suffer a lot of sexism and everything like that, and just verbal abuse, and just like being 20 years of a carpenter, like just like how much that like hurt her body as a woman. And so just like seeing her, like she's like a true inspiration. She just worked so hard. She would work 6-7 days a week just to complete projects and just to get overtime pay.
Wow.
And so she and my father are both, and my father just worked overnights for 25 years. And so they were just like, actually longer than that, about 30 plus years. And so they're both like huge inspirations to me.
Definitely. Wow. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but what led you to IUN, and how has your experience been in your time here? And I know you said that you're a librarian. Have you been that your whole time here?
Yeah, so I've been here my whole time here. So with IU Northwest, I mean, this was the first full-time job I've ever had with like benefits. So
Okay.
getting here, it was like huge for me because when I graduated college in 2011 all the way up to 2017, for those 6 years I was always working multiple part-time jobs. I didn't have benefits for that long. I didn't have benefits, and I was always working like 2 or 3 jobs and commuting into, they were always part-time jobs. When I was in library school, I was working, I was going to school for full-time, and then I was working Starbucks on the weekends. And then I was doing my library school job at Center for Research Libraries in Chicago. And I was doing those 2 part-time jobs and going to library school. And so it was just so hard to do. And when I saw that the position at IU Northwest opened up in 2017, I like immediately jumped on it. And so I applied. And so I ended up getting here, and I'm just so grateful for just IUN just giving me this opportunity to serve, so that I can serve them, and just be the best librarian I could be the best instruction librarian I can be, and to really hone my skills as a teacher. And so it was like it was a total life changer when I because I was able to have my own benefits, I had my own full-time job, and it was like just so great, and I'm just so thankful about it.
That's
So
awesome.
it was rough, the early 2010s, mid 2010s. It was hard, but like I felt like IUN gave me a lifeboat, or a lifesaver.
Yeah.
With that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Has anyone here at IUN been like particularly memorable or impactful to you?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I would have so you said impactful?
Yeah, into your life. Yeah.
Into my life and everything like that. So I would have to say who I really looked up to a lot was our um, our previous library dean, Librarian Booker.
Okay.
I really admired her. She's no longer here. She left IU Northwest, but she was a trailblazer. Libre is she's a biracial woman. She's a Black woman, and so you don't libraries are typically dominated by white females. It's a
Oh,
very
okay.
heavily white female industry. There's not a lot of men in libraries. There's also not a lot of women of color, let alone people of color
Okay.
in libraries. And so her being the dean, she was actually the very first Black library dean in the entire IU system for the regional
Wow.
campuses. So she was a trailblazer for when she became library dean. And so just she was a trailblazer, and she also faced a lot of sexism, a lot of racism,
Hmm.
dealing with like a lot of other Indiana associations. And so it was really hard for her to get like she worked really hard, but but she had a lot of going against her,
Okay.
being a Black woman, especially, you know, being in the state of Indiana when you're dealing with libraries that are mostly white female dominated.
Mm.
And so sometimes it was really tough getting like her agenda across when she was in leadership positions.
Okay.
But like she is someone that like I think about like to this day, and just like how and she mentored me a lot when I was starting off here, because
Okay.
I was in her position when she moved up to dean. And so she gave me a lot of mentoring, not only about like just like with the day-to-day stuff,
Yeah.
but also about like navigating higher education and navigating like a large university system
Yeah.
like this. So
Okay.
she was particularly really impactful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did she end up going?
She ended up going to a different nonprofit. And so yeah, she was doing it for a really long time. She works at a nonprofit, and last time I heard, I believe she is at a local public library nearby here. I want to
Okay.
say she's maybe at East Chicago Public
Okay.
Library, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, she decided to move on from IU Northwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. You've already been talking about the career journey, so I feel bad asking this, but
Let's go.
how has your career journey been so far, and has IUN has helped you reach your goals in what ways?
Yeah, so I it's right now I'm kind of considered like a mid-career librarian, which is
Okay.
just crazy to think about. Because like I was just counting recently, like thinking about when I got my first library, like big boy library job back in 2013. So I've been in libraries professionally, like not as a student worker, but professionally for about 11 years. And so
Wow.
I guess I'm considered like a mid-career librarian. And so um, I am like really like lucky with IUN just giving me resources of like for professional development and training and going to conferences. Like I've worked in smaller libraries before, and I've never had a school or a library pay for me to go to conferences
Yeah.
and to learn and to experiment. What I really love about IUN is that I am able to just experiment with things, and
Uh-huh.
if it's a failure, if it doesn't work, that's okay. They
Yeah.
applaud you for trying. If it does work, that's really great. That's really awesome. So I mean, I've talked to other colleagues, other like librarians who do not get that support in their other libraries. Like they don't get like like with conferences being covered and trying things. You know, they're always like libraries, like their libraries always tell them like play it safe.
Yeah.
But here, like they encourage you to be like daring to try things, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
Okay.
You know, and so I had a lot of ideas when I was in library school. What if we do this? What if we do that? And they always gotten pushed back. But as soon as I got to IUN, they encouraged that, where it's like, yeah, let's try this new thing.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And so that it gives me a lot of freedom to do like what I want to do, like
Yeah.
being as the main instruction librarian.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Why do you think IUN is different in that way and provides the support for people to self-improve, you know?
I would have to say that's a really good question. Um, I think it might have to do with just how we are maybe associate. This is just my guess, but
Yeah.
maybe it's because we're associated with the IU brand and the IU system rather
Okay.
than be a standalone librarian, a standalone university
Yeah.
or a standalone college. And it's because since we are attached to IU, they give us support such as like tools, the technology, the assistance, the help
Yeah.
from Bloomington and Indianapolis for the main campus and also the campuses and also the regional campuses
Mhm.
too. Like we get support from them and we throw ideas and everything like that around. And so I think IU kind of feels that we have nothing to lose. If you want to try something, let's do it. Maybe we can try to fund it. Maybe we can't. And so I think it has to do maybe with like just the culture from downstate kind of coming up here
Yeah.
and just like trying out new things and everything like that and
Yeah.
just encouraging that. So I think that's why, and Indiana University has standards, that we librarians, we are, just like the teaching faculty, we have to go through promotion and tenure. And so they want to see creativity, they want to see experiments, and they
Yeah.
want to see new things
Right.
happening. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing that they support that.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to someone who's starting in their education or career based on your experience?
So someone gave me this advice, and I don't remember who because I want to thank them. And they, when you're starting out, say yes to everything.
Okay.
Just say yes. Just do it. If it's something like a project someone wants you to be on, just say yes. I'll do it. Just see where it takes you.
Mm.
So that's like one thing. Did you say starting off with career or starting off
Uh,
with
I
education?
guess both career
Okay.
and education, whatever advice you might have.
Yeah, I would also have to say is just do your best to be fearless and just go out and just take risks, just
Yeah.
do it. Sometimes it'll hurt and sometimes it'll be really scary, but hey, at least you tried and it's not going to be the end of the world
Yeah.
if you go out and try doing that. Um, I I was when I finished my undergrad and I was out, I was out of college and I was done with student teaching and I was doing my band director job and I just was not happy. I
Mm.
just wasn't happy. I'm like, I need to do a change
Mm.
right now. And so I just sporadically went to library school. I'm like, I'm going to go back to what I wanted to do when I was a junior in college. And so I went to library school and I'm really glad I did. It was rough. It was really hard. I made a lot of mistakes
Yeah.
and I made stupid decisions, but I just took that risk and did it. I would also say like get a mentor too. Get someone who um get someone who wants to not wants to, but who has kind of done it before. If there's something that you want to do or something that you're thinking about going into, see
Yeah.
if you can find a mentor. Would it be a teacher, maybe someone who works in it already, who's
Mm.
in the field, and just go out and buy them a cup of coffee or just hang out somewhere and just,
Yeah.
have a conversation. You don't have to be all awkward and sheepish and say, hey, can you be my mentor? You don't have to do that. It
Yeah.
could just be a matter of like, I admire what this person does or I admire what this person is doing or what they did. So I'm going to talk to them and ask what they did.
Okay.
And so I think that is really important to have is to have that mentor mentee relationship.
Yeah.
Not only does it benefit you, but I feel it also does benefit the mentor too,
Okay.
because mentors like kind of reflect of what they did. And I think it helps them as much as it helps
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
So get out and trying to find that mentor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that we haven't been able to get the chance to talk about yet?
I would say that um, what also like really attracted me to go to IUN is just like the diversity of the campus and how
Okay.
much I value diversity,
Yeah.
especially when we're in a world where like diversity is like under attack right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in a really like diverse neighborhood, and so that is like where I'm like really comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable of with people of all backgrounds, no matter what the color of your skin is, no matter how much money you make, no matter who you love. It's just that's diversity, and I really appreciate that with IUN, and I'm really proud of the fact that we are like the most diverse campus in the IU system.
Oh, wow.
So which we are. IU Northwest is the most diverse, more than
Okay.
Indianapolis,
Okay.
and so I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah,
And
that's
really,
awesome.
and it feels like home here.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Well, thank you, Nico, for sharing your story, and
Yeah,
thank you for
thanks,
being
Warren.
and
Yeah,
thank you for being part of IUN.
yeah, thank you.